We answer the Baltimore Ravens' most pressing roster questions before training camp comes up in a couple weeks. All that and much more coming up next here on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens. We are your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostraker of Ravens Wire. We're here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you so much for being here on this Purple Friday, last day of June, making us your first listen each and every day. Free and available anywhere you get your podcast, audio form, video form. You can find us 5 days a week. Giving Ravens news, analysis, updates, and here with me today is former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Super Bowl champion Kaji Ismail. And Q, it is crazy. July coming up tomorrow, so a happy early 4th of July to everybody, yourself included, Q. And it's crazy. It feels like yesterday we saw Tyler Huntley fumble at the goal line, and let me stop. That's a bad memory. We're not going to talk about that. No. We're not going to talk. But I saw something on Twitter. I forget who posted it, but it was, which hurt more, the Tyler Huntley fumble or the Billy Cundiff missed field goal that lost them the championship game? And I said, there's no debate here. To me, it's Billy Cundiff, because that team, they were on the cusp of a Super Bowl. I think the Ravens team last year was limited because of Lamar Jackson's injury. To me, that's not really close, Q. But how you doing otherwise?
Wow, that can't you just like, okay, July 4th, we just gonna come out with the hardest question ever. That is a good one. But the circumstances, like you said, one was a team that was built to win a Super Bowl. The other was hanging on by a thread and was playing a division opponent. So you kind of had that, subconscious mental confidence in your game and in the team. So you felt like you could compete against them. They both stung. I was actually doing the radio broadcast up in New England when that whole thing came about. And what I remember is everything just kind of rapidly was speeding up. And it really wasn't like a hey, let's, use this as composure. Let's go out there and help ourselves. I guess when you look at it, there's a couple things. From Billy comes the next generation and Hall of Fame credentialed Matt Stover replacement in Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker was the catalyst or the final piece to traject this team to where they needed to get to down New Orleans when it came to a guy in Anquan Bolden. So while Billy Cundiffed us, are we saying now that Lamar's going to have his greatest season ever because he got, Huntley'd? So we got Huntley'd, we got Cundiffed. We know what Cundiff did to us. We know what Lee Evans did to us. And we know what now, kind of like the bigger picture of that outcome. I just flipped it on you.
You did that.
Flipped it on you, made it a positive. Ravens going to the dance, getting another ring. 3 Super Bowl championships in a very finite amount of time compared to their counterparts in Cincinnati and in Pittsburgh. Don't even talk to me if we win a 3rd championship if you're a Steelers fan, because I'm just going to be talking junk to you. I'm just going to look at your history and see how sorry y'all were in the beginning phases. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Then I'm going to look over at Cincinnati, and I'm going to be like, ooh, you guys went to Super Bowls, but you couldn't finish it. Then I'm going to look over at Cleveland. I'm just going to have a moment of silence for the greatest player to ever play. Once we're done with that moment of silence, I'm going to turn my attention back to the Cleveland Browns fans. I'm like, yeah, but your Super Bowl championships are ours. Y'all trying to act all cool, but y'all tripping on Art Modell, not allowing him to get into the Hall of Fame. So therefore, yeah, go ahead and drive here to Baltimore, look at the championships and be like, wow. So that's what it feels like to be a champion. And have your kids, too, who are Browns fans be like, wow, mom, wow, dad, when I grow up, I want to be a Baltimore Ravens fan. And then you're going to go ahead and pull out your purple handkerchief as you start having those tears of like sorrow, but joy. But the sorrow is saying to yourself, self, we're not that good. And then the joy is to say, wow, you guys have Lamar Jackson, and all we got is Deshaun Watson, and he just wants to get a massage. Welcome into the show, everyone.
Yeah, that might be the craziest intro we've ever had. Wow. Welcome in, Steelers, Bengals, Browns fans of Locked On Ravens. Hope you enjoyed that. Wow, that was incredible, Q, really. And talking about questions, this is something to me where offensively for Baltimore, just getting into that topic, because we can talk about Cundiff versus Huntley and all those things. But when it comes to this year, the offensive questions, the offensive unit is the one that I feel the most comfortable about when it comes to offense versus defense right now. I know there's still stuff to see on the field. We haven't seen Todd Monken's offense yet. But if I asked you, and I'm going to ask you, what is your biggest question when it comes to the Ravens offense right now ahead of training camp? What would your answer be?
Honestly, like, I like this challenge that is defend 53 in the third. So we know that skilled players are going to get the ball. Is it J.K. Dobbins and his transformation as a complete player? Is that how is that going to look? I have an idea based upon what you saw a little bit in Georgia, what you really saw in Tampa, as well as Cleveland. I have an idea of how this passing offense is really going to be way more evolved than what we saw in Greg Roman's. Okay, you're going to go here, and then you're going to run an out. And then you're going, hey, just make it all up. Lamar, do something. So I think we have those, but we really just don't know. You just don't know. Like, game plan. I'm curious as to what kind of blocking scheme are they going to be? Are they wide zone? Are they going to be inside zone? Power. You know, we knew Greg Roman was a mad genius with the blocking schemes. There's no question about that. But I think that's the biggest elephant in the room as far as, you know, what Todd Monken brings. And he's talked about, you know, balance and all those things. And so he's smart enough to recognize, you know, they're just not going to just be pass happy for the sake of it. You know, this division is a division where you got to run the ball and be dominant with the run game to establish yourself at times. But, I just think that overall, the bigger picture is what is it going to really, you know, X's and O's, personnel, what is it all going to look like?
Yeah, we can talk about it on paper. We can talk about it from past Todd Monken coaching stops and what we've seen there. But this is different team, different personnel, and different identity. So I'm excited, and I'm also curious, like you, Q, to see that. Now I'm going to piggyback off what you said a little bit, and I want to get your opinion on this too, because we've talked about it. I talked about it myself on yesterday's show. One of the things that I'm most interested to see, and one of the questions I have, is one, how much they are going to run the ball this year, and two, what does it mean for Lamar Jackson's carries if the scheme changes a little bit? How much do you run Lamar Jackson? Because we know he's good at it. We know it's a part of his game. But do you want to maybe run him less with the throws going up? Does that mean his carries are going down? That's the biggest question to me, where I don't think it's necessarily right or wrong either which way. I think a lot of people would prefer to see those carries go down a little bit, but not. My thing is, you can't take it out of the game plan altogether, because if you do, you're eliminating part of what makes the Ravens themselves, what makes the offense so good, so dynamic, and so hard to game plan for. But at the same time, you have so many other weapons now, receiver wise. You still have J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. My question is, well, what does that mean for Lamar's carries, and how much do you utilize that?
See, here's the thing. If you look at even the 19 season, you had Mark Ingram right at the last bit towards the end of the year get damaged. Mark Andrews get damaged. Lamar Jackson, was he? I don't know if he was necessarily like injured, but then he was kind of like banged up, or they were saving him or something along those lines. My point is this. And this is like for all the championships and everything, like Patrick Mahomes sustained a devastating injury, and you had Chad Henne come in there and make some critical throws for them to secure them to advance to the next round. Patrick Mahomes got to the finish line and had everybody on the same page with him. Jalen Hurts was hurt, and they had, who was it, Gardner Minshew, I think. And I saw that Cowboys game, and they were like going back and forth, like it was crazy. And I think they came up on the short end of it where they were able to do just enough to get to the playoff run. And we obviously saw what happened in San Francisco. Brock Purdy they changed the rule. They're going to have a third quarterback now. That's how bad they changed the rule. So Brock Purdy goes down. In all three of those scenarios, that one guy needed to be healthy. Patrick Mahomes was able to overcome the deficiency of his injury and still make it work. What if you're the Ravens? You don't got to worry about that first 8-9 weeks of the season. What if Lamar is just Speedy Gonzalez when needed? That's a reference to Warner Brothers. They had this cartoon animation. Am I dating myself that bad? Go look it up on YouTube, Speedy Gonzalez. Anyway, he's a fast cartoon character. All I'm saying is, when you look at Lamar Jackson's skill set and he's healthy late in the year and he don't got to carry anything, oh my goodness. Kevin, like, we going to sit back and just watch this team. Like, they're going to steamroll through people because teams aren't going to know what to do. So let Lamar be Lamar, but also I'm saying absolutely let him be the next dimension and next evolution of himself. And then, let the asset break out and do what he needs to do when it comes to running the ball and doing their thing. Let JK and Gus take all that heavy pounding and, let them get used to being a back out of the backfield. Let them, Zay and Bate and Odell and Isaiah and, I know Mark Andrews is going to be balling, but I'm still thinking there's something about that other kid from Iowa State. Third round pick might be doing something as well. So anyway, I think overall, let everybody feast, let them get warmed up and see what happens late in the year.
And I like what you said about, early season versus late season, because you're right. If the Ravens don't have to rely on Lamar's legs as much early on, and then you have him fresh for late season / playoff situations, and two, you're also able to maybe show some stuff to teams in the playoffs or late in critical games that maybe they haven't seen on film, where you don't have to use it and use that element of surprise early in the season. You can do it in week 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. You can do it in the playoffs. I think, to me, those two aspects are huge. We're coming up in the second part of the show. We'll talk about defensive questions, talking Justin Houston's potential return, and where the Ravens might need to shore up their roster. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty to talk about on Locked On Ravens. But first, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $2,000. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to be the first home run hitter, all that on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's a better place to bet on the MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner in Major League Baseball. We're back here, our second segment with Kadri Ismail. I am Kevin Ostraker here on Purple Friday, talking Ravens roster questions. And we talked to you in the first segment about what the scheme is going to look like with the roster they have and how Lamar is going to maybe have his carries decreased with possibly just a great roster around him. But for me, when you look at defense, we'll go defense now. I think that the biggest question to me is what's going on with Justin Houston? The Ravens outside linebacker room, David Ajabo, Odafe Owe, Tyus Bowser, Tavius Robinson in there too. the Ravens have lost, if Justin Houston doesn't return, about 15 sacks between both Justin Houston and Calais Campbell. And then you can throw Jason Pierre-Paul had 3 in there as well. But 9.5 sacks from Houston. And Houston's season last year was so weird, Q. He had like 9 sacks before the bye and then 0.5 sacks after the bye and missed out on an incentive for getting 10 or more sacks. But to me, the Ravens need something in that room. It's not, that's not no disrespect to Odafe Oweh or David Ojabo. I think those guys can go out there and perform at a really high level. But the veteran presence and the injury insurance in case one of those guys were to, if you lose Oweh or Ojabo and you don't bring anybody else in, or you lose Bowser, that room becomes suddenly very thin. So to me, it feels like Q Houston is probably the most realistic option out of anybody still available in the market. He's familiar with the system. He knows the defense now, being in it for a year with Mike McDonald. I feel like if the Ravens were to add someone in that room, Justin Houston would probably be it.
The reason why you look at a roster and, like you said, with a Justin Houston, for example, it's because what you ultimately are trying to look for is that in locker room chemistry, if you will, that it's such a delicate thing, and you want, the cohesiveness, and sometimes, to get a guy caught up to speed with culture of your locker room is challenging. And I think for Justin Houston, he already knows. So what's the big deal to challenge and try to figure out when he already knows? I mean, that's the delicacy of what it looks like for this Ravens ball club when I'm talking about like coaches, John Harbaugh. Plus, you look at Eric DeCosta. Thank you. When you see Eric DeCosta trying to be like, all right, I'm crossing everything and my eyes, trying to, whatever hair he looked like me a little bit with his hairline, but you're trying to just like guess, to pray and all the things that everything goes well, but training camp is training camp. Things happen. Guys are on speed dial, and that's how it is, So yeah, Justin Houston has an advantage that you're hoping that you don't have to take advantage of the advantage because everything went well. But yeah, you got to have a plan B.
Yeah, and I like that point too, because we saw essentially, when you talk about guys getting caught up and making sure that you don't take too much time, or you don't have to have too much time devoted to saying, well, you got to learn the entire defense. And if it doesn't go well and they're having trouble picking it up, Houston has that because he's been there. He's been there for multiple seasons now. And it's not just like he is this random guy and he hasn't been super productive for them, hasn't given them anything on and off the field. He's done both of those things. And when you talk about catching guys up in 2021, Q, when the Ravens lost J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and Justice Hill, they had to bring in all new guys, including Ravens legend Devonta Freeman, by the way. They had to get all those guys caught up right before, like 4 days before the season opener. And it took them a while to figure out the offense with getting, Le'Veon in there and Freeman and Latavius Murray. That's a whole new room. I'm not saying it's that dire in the outside linebacker room right now, but catching guys up, that's the key thing to me. And you might have that same situation corner-wise when you talk about the room, because one of my biggest things, aside from outside linebacker, is the makeup of the room right now. And I kind of liken it. It's not the exact same thing, but I kind of liken it to the way the Ravens receiver room was last year. And I say it's not the same thing because you have Marlon Humphrey over there, who was one of the best corners in the NFL, whereas the Ravens with their wide receivers last year, it was everybody unproven, or at least needing to prove something, take a step. Marlon Humphrey and Rock Ya-Sin, you know who those two guys are. Humphrey's a star, Ya-Sin's a solid 2 to 3 guy. The rest of that room, though, Q, is Jalen Humber Davis and Pepe Williams and Trayvon Mullen and Ardarius Washington, Kyu Blue Kelly. It's all young guys. And if Marlon Humphrey goes down, if Rock Ya-Sin goes down, you have to have multiple guys take a leap in order to make sure you feel at least a little comfortable in that room depth-wise. So do you think the way this cornerback room is constructed is a question for you, or do you feel comfortable with it?
Judging by the history, and as you mentioned, Devonta Freeman, I'm going to say, thank God F- is out the building. Because when it comes to, like, training camp, it seems like something goes on with the defensive backs. They just drop like flies. Everybody else is fine. So, with that said, I I'm always going to hold my breath because if a Hall of Famer, both as a player and as a GM, saying you can't have enough corners, then by golly, let's us make sure that there are some options that you'll have when it comes to cornerback play.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it seems like Marcus Peters is not in the equation for them anymore. It seems like Rack Yassine got that money. But to me, it's the slot equation too, Q, where Ardarius Washington seems like the front runner to me, at least right now, had a very strong period of OTAs and minicamp to win that job. Feels like Baltimore, John Harbaugh said as much once Kyle Hamilton playing more of a safety role. Not saying he can't ever play in the slot again. I'm sure that they're going to move him around, be versatile. But would you maybe want to see them add a veteran slot option? Because Humphrey, you want to keep him on the outside. Yassine is an outside corner. He's played 80+% of his snaps on the outside, I think. So would you want to see them add maybe a Bryce Callahan, who's a pretty good slot guy, maybe a Chris Harris Jr., who's definitely on the older side, but still can maybe give you some snaps? Or do you want to trust the young guys and see what they have?
Nah, young. Did you know them receivers? I mean, you could put all kidding aside. Them receivers for Cleveland, for Cincinnati, for Pittsburgh, bruh, they're the real deal. I'm talking about like the frontline guys are easy to talk about frontline guys, but it's that for Baltimore, it seems like it's always like the slot guy is the one that you're like, dang, another first down. Dang, they just got into the red zone. Dang, they scored. Look at the receivers cheering and celebrating while our guys are looking at one another like, oh, I thought you. No, I thought you. Dang. So, bruh, give me some young horses. Give me them dudes communicating. Give me them. Hey, if we gotta go ahead to the second option, which is bringing back Kyle Hamilton in the slot, so be it. But develop. Hey man, develop some young guys. I ain't trying to have dudes hold their hamstrings and no. We trying to get this thing, and you need young guys like you need them. You need them to be good. You need them to be on special teams. Special teams has changed somewhat. I get that. There's some. Yes, the groove of special teams has definitely, been altered a lot, but you still need it, and so I wouldn't mess around, bro. Like, no. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Youth. Not the Devontae Freemans whose youth passed him by.
We're gonna be talking about Devonta Freeman forever. And two started off the year really rough, but ended, I think, really well for him. But regardless, I think the Ravens corner room, the saying, and I've always said it, is the Ravens start the year with 50 million healthy corners and they stack the position and they end the year with 2 healthy corners. That's just how it's been. And it's across the league too. You can never have enough corners. So if they do bring in somebody, then that's fine. But they do have enough young guys where if they want to go the youth route and develop some of these guys and hope they step up, them that they have enough to do so. So I think it's more of a risk to do that, but if they feel comfortable enough, then that's what they'll do. And we'll see how that turns out for them if they do. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about the energy, the vibes of the Ravens right now and why they are a bit different than this time last year and why that's a good thing. Somebody should have stayed tuned. Still plenty to get to on Locked On Ravens. We're back here rounding out Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher is still here with Kadri Ismail. And I was thinking heading into that last break, something else that I feel like hurt more than Tyler Huntley's fumble at the goal line was when the Ravens blew 2 14-point leads of the Patriots in 2014 with that Gary Kubiak offense, and they lost that game because that team to me felt destined. It was the best chance to give Steve Smith a ring. They had New England on the ropes, and they just could not finish the job. And to me, when you're talking about order of things, and bringing up these bad memories, we're bringing out the bad memories now so we can have good memories this year.
We're exercising
exactly.
those bad memories demons. Go ahead.
But I think to me, that one hurt more than Tyler Huntley's fumble to me.
I mean, way more. I cannot stand the evil empire. It just so irks the living snot out of me. And I forget the corners that were there. You talk about, our last second talking about those corners and youth and all that. I mean, we were getting guys off the street
It was like
But
Rashawn Melvin was one of those guys this time.
yeah, and I mean, for them to bite on these plays that you're like, bruh, just freaking protect the dog on deep pass. Like that's what your sole purpose is, not to give up, and they gave it up. I mean, my God, man, like you just don't get that many times to put a good team like that on the ropes. You had them on the ropes, and you let them off the hook. Um, New England, they are what we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. Denny Green, rest in peace. I'm telling you right now, like I think this is by far that stung more. No, Troy Polamalu and them coming back after we jumped up on them 21 to, what was it, 21-7, I think. And I mean, I was like, oh my God. Like I turned to Mark Burdett when I was in the booth. I was like, oh, do you think we can host a championship game? He's like, yeah, we can. Calm down though. We got a lot of game left. I don't care. You don't come back. And sure enough, that one hurt worse. Then the Evil Empire, then getting Cundiffed, and then up in the annals of Raven lore, we get Huntley'd.
Yeah, it's we're getting rid of the demons
I'm
now.
just like cathartic. Get it out of us.
Yep, get them out. We're done. We're now moving forward. Hopefully, a lot better memories in 2023, and I think we're off to a pretty good start this offseason, Q. It feels like the vibes and the energy is different. I don't know if you caught the Ravens Wired episode Baltimore put out a couple days ago.
Saw that.
Did a really good job with it, and it just seems like guys are happy to be in the building. Guys are ready to work, ready to compete, ready to win. John Harbaugh's message was, if you put in the work, this will be the hardest and the most rewarding football season of your careers. And also with Todd Monken, it just seems like the players love him. Zay Flowers saying he loves Coach Todd. Morgan Moses, high praise as well. Lamar seems to love him as well. It just, to me, it feels like there's just a different energy around them. And I think that's a really good thing when talking about there was a lot of uncertain vibes last year, especially during the year with John Harbaugh essentially calling out Greg Roman multiple times. Even you can go back a while, Q, when, do you remember that interview Lamar did? I think it was NFL Network or it was with Rich Eisen. And he essentially said, well, the defense knows all our plays and they're calling out our plays before we know them. It was either 2019, it was either 2020 or 2020, but he essentially said, the defense knows our plays. We can't do anything because the defense knows our plays. Seems like there's a lot more confidence, in not only the Ravens offense, but just the Ravens in general from the players right now.
The confidence that you need to have in the offseason gives you motivation to work during the season. A lot of teams are in that kind of mode, and there was a video I saw from the Jets, and they were talking about Aaron Rodgers and how they felt about him, and the free agent pickup of Aaron's receiver in Lazard. Lazard was actually interviewed. He was excited. They talked about Quentin Williams, how dominant of a defensive end he was. Sauce Gardner, oh my gosh, we got to improve upon with him. I forget their coordinator, but he was Aaron Rodgers' coordinator before. I know he went to Denver, but then now he's with the Jets, all those things. It just made me smile in a sense to look at all that, because the term hope springs eternal, off-season wise, yeah, it happens every year in the NFL. You feel your team has a legit shot, but can you overcome? And I think for this Ravens ball club, I think Marlon knows what he was saying. The window only stays open but so long. I think you look at what this team, when it says we're going all in, there's guys that are trying to prove themselves. So overall, every team, there's maybe a handful of teams that might not be thinking realistically that they have a chance, and I get that. But there's some good teams out there. The The Bills, they're a good team. They got their general manager and head coach locked up. Quiet is kept. Mike Tomlin, last I checked, that dude's a baller, stud head coach and just prepares his team. They're about to see what they got. All I know is until you knock them off the block, Cincinnati, bruh. I mean, they're Cincinnati and we're not. So you tell me, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, there is a lot of positive energy and all that, but it's great. I'm not saying it's not. It's just that hope springs eternal. Don't worry about Devonta Freeman because we got a full backfield. Let's worry about hamstring dude and Justice Hill, and hopefully he doesn't have to worry about F- giving him more hamstring issues.
That is, yeah, that it is what it is in terms of the Ravens and their vibes right now. I mean, I remember Q in 2019, and obviously winning cures everything, right? Winning is what has the vibes going great for teams. They were dancing around every week, blowing teams out for like the Rams 45-6 on Monday night, and you had Lamar and Hollywood and all those guys just dancing up and down the field. Those were like vibes. Like those are what you want to have. And to me, last year, it just didn't seem like Lamar was as happy. And a lot of people attributed it to, oh, well, it's the contract thing. It's a distraction. I don't think it was that as much as he just didn't look as happy within the offense. I don't think he had as much freedom as he deserved to have. And that's it too, Hugh, where it feels like the Ravens offense is going to be more free this year. Lamar is going to get those keys as we've talked about. And I think that will open up a newfound level of confidence, not only in his coaches like Todd Monken, for example, but in himself. Not that Lamar didn't have confidence in his ability and himself in particular, but more so, am I like, can I do this? Like, will this be the right play or the wrong play within the offense? With it be so free flow? With it being so free flowing now, I feel like it just opens up so many new things, confidence and vibes wise, not only just game plan and personnel wise.
One of the things that you look at with NFL players that are like generationally talented, and you see it across all sports, it's what motivates you, what drives you, and those generational players, it's I am talented, I want to win, but I want to there's this quest to just maximize the heck out of my talent and just be in position to championship level play year in and year out. And that high tide mentality raises all ships. But you, the ultimate team sport, have got to have everyone on the same page and in lockstep. Who are those other everyones? The coaching staff. And you talk about that Ravens Wire piece, training camp and all that. Well, like look at the coaching staff and how they were challenging, the receivers, how they were challenging, Lamar, but in his own way, he was being challenged. You know what I'm saying? Like Todd Monken and all that. Like it's not just vanilla. It's like, yo, let's do this, and it's all set up. I think it's set up, and now it's about execution. Now it's about going out there and getting it done. It was interesting to me when Keith Williams was throwing a ball and Odell caught it with one hand. I'm excited. And you saw James Prochet. I think he was the main one. So James Prochet, like, wait a minute, what? And then he got to the point where he took off his helmet and was like, no, you don't. Because James Prochet felt like he was that dude as far as the one-hand catch and the spectacular catch. The only thing is that one guy does it so regularly in practice and has arguably one of the most all-time one-hand catches ever. I remember Tom Coughlin, his head coach, was getting a little salty with him. Like, well, maybe he should catch it with two hands. But he established so much street cred, like in-game plays, that he's like, no, him, I do. You? No, I don't. So what am I trying to say? There is that fine line of we got players, we got ballers, we got people who can do things, but the excitement of the coaching staff to allow them to express their ultimate talent Like that, I think, is a missing piece that we didn't have when we looked at the Ravens last year.
Yeah, it's so key, and I think it's going to open up so many things for them. I'm excited. The energy is different. Hopefully, it stays that way for the entire season, and they're able to translate that energy into wins. But Q, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I don't know if you'll be able to give us the legendary of an outro as you gave us an intro, but I'll give you the floor to try.
Well, all I know is this: that the season has come and the season has gone, and this offseason, we bring it to a conclusion in so many ways, but you, my friend, like rocked it out this year with your offseason back and forth, pushing the best out of me. And like when it comes to Devontae Freeman Award, I'm giving it to you. The Devontae Freeman took it to the next level, pushed Kadri to understanding better questions and stimulating thought. You won it.
Hey, I've never been more honored to win awards, so I will take them. My trophies will come in the mail, I'm sure, with a big Devonta Freeman and a statue of you as well. So look at that. But I appreciate you, Q. We make each other better. That's what's great about this, and I'm very grateful we've been able to develop this partnership and friendship, and I'm looking forward to continuing it for a really long time with you. So I appreciate you as always. But that's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll make it back here on Monday. More Ravens content. Be sure to subscribe, audio form, video form for free. And I'll see you right back here on Monday on Locked On Ravens.